This is Amy Chan from CakeDecoratingSchool.com, and if you like cake decorating, you're in the right place. In this video, we'll be learning how to pipe swags. It's broken down into steps so you can skip ahead, rewind, and rewatch as desired. We're going to be learning how to make swags today, and we're going to use a single bag. I've got a couple on it because I'm going to try a few different tips, but we're going to start out with a number 3 tip, and you can use any round tip for swags. It'll just change the size. We're also going to use a 104 and an 18 to demonstrate some alternate looks. And I made my color today using just some violet and some neon bright pink mixed together. For our swag technique, we're going to start off with a round tip. We're using number 3. That's just the easiest one to start with, but you can use any size of round tips, and as you'll see later, you can use some other kinds as well. It's a lot like making a line, where we're touching, lifting, and letting gravity do some work, and touching down again. But instead of being on the top of the cake, we're going to be on the side. When we touch, we're going to touch, for the sake of this little lesson, the top edge of the cake. We're going to pull out towards ourselves instead of up, and let gravity pull down a little loop for us. And when we get the right size and the right length, we're going to touch the side again. So it's a lot like making lines on the top of your cake. We're just doing it on the side, and we're letting that pull of gravity that normally would be a problem do the work for us and make these lovely, beautiful curves for us, rather than trying to draw them on the side of the cake. So it's just touching, pulling out towards yourself, waiting a little bit. We're going to use some nice gentle pressure and go really slow, and then touching back again when you're finished. The most common problem that you're going to encounter when doing swags are air bubbles or breaks due to your speed. The air bubbles you can't help completely, but you can combat a little bit to begin with. When you're mixing your color, think about folding gently and slowly to help kind of deflate and knock out some of those larger air bubbles if you find you're getting them. And if you feel like you're getting breaks due to speed, then you might just want to have to slow down or squeeze just a little less. So think nice gentle pressure. If you're squeezing too hard or not enough, you might find some problems, too much frosting coming out too quickly and making it hard to handle, or you might get some breaks in your lines. So those are just some ways to help combat those. If you actually have one, what we're going to do is just gently remove it with a toothpick. So I like to keep something small on hand. Toothpicks are great because they're disposable, just to lift off any stray lines that have gone amiss, and remove them gently from the cake, remove any color that's on the surface, and if you need to, you can always chill your cake first. So if you're working and you get a couple of breaks, just keep going, get most of it done, put everything in the fridge, and then once it's chilled and easier to handle without disturbing things or mixing up color or making more problems than we're solving, you can gently lift those areas off with a toothpick and then go back in and fix them. So the main thing, if you have a break or an air bubble pop on you, is not to panic and just work on fixing it nice and slow. There's a bunch of different patterns that you can make when you're doing swags, and we've just put a few common of them out here on a tray just to kind of get you started and get your imagination going. There's of course single lines, so think just doing a nice little single line swag around your cake. You can double them up or triple them by doing layers kind of successive ones that get longer and longer. For these, I always start with the top one, so the shortest one, and then go underneath, so I'm not risking knocking into the work below. And that's just the one important thing to keep in mind when you're doing those different numbers of swags all together in groupings. And it kind of starts to look a bit like kind of bunting and that kind of jazz. And it looks really nice and detailed on your side of your cake, but once you get the hang of swags, it's actually pretty easy. You can do layered designs. So I've done a double swag, and as I've pulled one over, then I've started another one kind of offset in between, and I've done those lines and layers going across so that I get this look where they're kind of woven and strung together. So it looks a little more complex, but it's really the same thing that we're doing up here. It's just mixing up the order that you pipe those lines in to create a nice pattern or effect. So you can take this idea and really run with it and do increasingly complex patterns as you become more comfortable with creating swags. You can also do things like mix up the length and the depth of them. So you can see we have two longer, shallow ones and one that's shorter that dips further down in between. So you can create some nice variety, even just doing single swags and mixing up the lengths and the depths on those to create some nice kind of artificial variety there. The other thing we can do is use different kinds of tips. Love using a star tip for them. There's a bunch of sizes in those that'll all give you different looks, but it always starts to twist a little bit and always gives me that idea of a rope. So it's a little heavier, it's got some texture to it, it's got a little bit of a twist to it just because of how we have to hold the tip, which makes for a nice design detail that just kind of happens naturally for you. The other one that's really popular to use are your petal tips. I've just used a 104 here, and you can see that gives me a nice swag that has a lot of body to it. So it's got a nice width to that line because we're using the petal tip. It's a little thinner on the bottom edge. It has a bit of a fabric ruffle, almost dress detail to it. So if you're thinking of making something like a princess cake and you want some nice details on the dress, those are a good one to get in there because they have that kind of fabric-y inspired look. So these are just a few of the patterns and variations you can do for your swags to really mix it up and take a single technique you're learning and kind of run with it and create a lot of variety for yourself. For our swags, part of what helps make them look neat is getting good spacing. Now, if you've practiced this a lot, you might have just a good natural sense, but sometimes that can mean that when you meet up at the end, things can be a little funny. You might have a little extra room or not quite enough, and it can be helpful to plan out and mark your segments ahead of time, not only to give yourself a guide when you're doing the size of them, but also to guide you on the spacing so you don't end up with anything kind of awkward there at the end. So typically what I like to do is take something, little piece of string or something like unflavored dental floss that's easy to have on hand. It's cheap. It's great for measuring the circumference of cakes because obviously it's safe to put in your mouth. And I just go with the unflavored so that it doesn't leave any residual taste or anything. But you can wrap it around your cake and get that circumference really, really easily, and then lay it out on a ruler to get your actual number. Once we do that, I'm just going to divide it by the number of segments I'm looking to get, or if I know there's going to be like a nice round number in there, use that. And that'll give me the number of inches that I need them to be in length. And then I can pick a cookie cutter that's closest in size, or if I want to, I can create my own template for my little swags and make it that exact number. So for today, I've measured the circumference with my cake. Using my floss, I wrapped it around and then I laid that against the ruler and I got 14.5 inches. Doesn't matter which measurement center method you use. If you want to use centimeters, you can. I think it'll be nice to do about 6 segments. That should take me pretty close. And it does because that gives me 2.416 repeating inches. So about 2.5 inches. And I've got a nice cookie cutter all ready to go that is 2.5 inches, which means my last one in there will be just a little bit smaller, and that's fine. So I'm going to grab my 2.5 inch diameter cookie cutter and I'm going to use that to mark the side of my cake. We're going to start working on our swags. And we're just going to demo some stuff right on the side of the cake. The basic technique is really all you need to learn. And it's a lot like when we do lines. So we want to start at that top edge of our cake at one of our markings. I'm going to make contact, so think touch, squeeze, let that frosting connect. And then I'm going to slowly, very slowly, nice gentle pressure, pull out. And you can see gravity pulls a nice line for us. And that's just it. We're just going to go until we've got enough frosting. It has the depth and curve we want, and then just gently touch back. And you can see that gives us a beautiful line there. Next up, I'm going to try a double. I'm just going to take my cutter again and mark a shallower line right there, kind of underneath. And I'm going to do that shallow one first and just kind of mark the bottom curve. I want to make sure I have some space between. If you wanted to do doubles, you can go around and do the extra markings. If you want to do triples, you can do a third line down there. But basically, you want to give yourself a little guide, especially if you're new to doing swags, so you have a nice little just kind of path to follow. So it feels more like connecting the dots than taking a stab at it and trying to get everything nice and even. When I do these, I'm going to start with this inside, so higher up line first, and then go down. You might find it easier or more natural to go the other way, to start with the longer ones and work shorter. So give it a try both ways and see what's comfortable for you. And if you get a little air bubble like I just did, I'm lucky I got it right at the beginning, just stop, remove, and keep going. If you need to, put it in the fridge and chill it. But a lot of times, you can see them happening, and it's pretty easy. The key here, going slow, letting those lines form, not rushing it, not trying to squeeze too hard, and making nice, slow, steady progress. So I've got my first line on. I'm going to do the second one underneath. And you'll notice I came a little in from my marking just to give myself room for that second line. That way everything kind of meets up, but we don't have a lot of excess or build up at that spot. You can see I'm turning my turntable as I go. So as I pull out, it's going to help me judge that depth. And when I've got a good line and I'm almost ready to touch, by just rotating gently for myself. And next, we're going to do a little overlapping. I'm just going to do a single so the demonstration is a little quicker. But the key with this is we've got our markings on our cake. And you can go in and you can mark the overlaps. But in this case, I'm just going to freehand them because I've already got those markings for my original ones. And I'm just going to go halfway between and give myself a little starting point, and then halfway between and give myself a little ending point. And I know I want to be right about here with my dip in the middle. So I know where I'm going just because I've already done the work to mark the cake for the original ones. And we're just going in between. So it's a little bit easier to eye these. And it also gives you a little practice at doing that. So for this, we just start in between. Let that build up. You can see now we have an overlapping line. And we can start our third one right at the end of this one. And we're doing a simple pattern here of single swags, but you can get increasingly complex. You can do double or triple swags and make patterns to those overlaps. And as you come back to the beginning, you would just finish it by overlapping that final one and connecting back together. And it gives you this great interconnected look that looks just a little bit fancier, even though we're still doing our single swags. We kept going for a little bit and piped ourselves a nice little double swag pattern. And you can see if I keep going even more, I'll meet up at the beginning and finish that off. But we just wanted to demo that you can do a lot with these. It's really just pulling out that line, letting gravity do the work for you, and taking your time are those important things. And you can create increasingly complex and layered patterns using not only just your round tips, but other things like your star tips and your petal tips as well, to really up that kind of design and wow factor on your cakes, especially when working on the sides, which can be a little bit daunting to begin with. So have courage, go slow. It'll work out if you give it a little love and time and some practice. And if you're wondering, well, how do I finish my cake? The top here where you have these joints is a perfect place to put things like stars or rosettes. You can always do things like a shell or reverse shell border on top and bottom, just to give it that finished, polished look. And if you're interested in lessons like that, we've got some great videos on mastering your shell and reverse shell border that you might want to try checking out.
We hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It truly supports our channel and helps us share more in-depth cake decorating lessons. Want to level up your skills? Our yearly membership has certificate programs from beginner and up. Learn more at cakedecoratingschool.com.